Got that chill elevator music going. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, what is going on, y'all? I can't believe it's Thursday, August 28th. Are you kidding me? It's already getting freaking cold here in Toronto. I got my WNBA hoodie on. You know what I'm saying? Making it work. We're making it work. But people, I am so excited for you to be joining in today. I have an amazing guest that I want to make sure that all of you get to know a little bit more. We got Daniel from Flight Performance, who's ultimately joining us in a little bit here. But if this is your first time tuning in, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to ThumbstopLive. Now, you might have the question, what is ThumbstopLive? So to bring you up to speed really quickly, ThumbstopLive is streaming every Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern across all different platforms. So I know there's a couple of people on LinkedIn checking us out right now. Shout out LinkedIn family. I know YouTube Live, you're active. What's going on, YouTube? See you in the chat in a little bit. Of course, Twitter or X, whatever you're calling it, you can see this is home base. And then Instagram folks, what's up? Hope you're doing well. So if anyone's interested in learning more about us, what we have going on, check us out at ThumbstopLive, at ThumbstopLive, at ThumbstopLive. All right? This has been an amazing month so far. We've had like so many incredible guests join us on stage and get to learn more about them and why they tick the way that they tick. But today's is going to be a great episode. I feel like I've known Daniel, as I think about it now, for actually quite a bit of time. It's always so interesting to look back and be like, shit, it's like 3.5 years or something like that. This guy's been killing the game forever. So everybody, I'm excited to welcome to the stage. Just give a round of applause, please.
The ultimate hype man.
I try, man. How are you? It's good to see you.
Likewise. How the tables have turned. I had you on bite-sized like 1.5 years ago or something. It feels strange to be on the other side.
Yeah, man. I feel like you were doing your thing, like hosting it, launching those episodes every week, getting them out. And I'm happy that like hosts don't always get enough love. So I'm happy that you get the shine here and you get to tell more about your story along the way. It'll be really fun.
I appreciate it, man. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, man. First question I have is just like, how's the end of your summer going? Like, do you consider this the end of summer? Does it feel different, or how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Living in LA means it's summer all year round. So summers to me, growing up in England, used to be like July and August when there used to be some sunshine and you'd actually go on vacation. But no, man, it's been a really good year. I'm excited. Obviously, Q4 is right around the corner. So lots going on in this side of the world.
Huge, man. Yeah, I always forget LA people. It's like, I don't want to talk to you about the weather no more. We're not talking about that. Just
you don't get seasons, so summer just feels like weather-wise is how I think about summer. So, but,
damn it! All right, fine. I'll give into that one. But Daniel, there's so much that I want to get into with you, obviously. But I think to kick us off, just for the audience who might not be as familiar with you, wondering if you can give us a quick tell us about yourself, professionally, personally, honestly, anything you're willing to share, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, sweet. I'm Daniel, founder and CEO of Flight Performance. We're a customer acquisition, customer retention, growth marketing company based out of LA. We work with fashion, apparel, beauty, health and wellness, DTC e-commerce brands, 6 figures up to 9 figures. Started the agency about 5.5, 6 years ago. Been in the space 2 decades, aging myself significantly. Started in 2004 at MySpace back in England. I was at MySpace for a couple of years and I joined another internet giant, AOL, where I was part of like the performance network as well as the owned and operated properties, working with the Group M agencies on how they utilize AOL as a media division and the performance network. And then I joined a company called Turn. They were a DMP, DSP, programmatic digital social agency. I ended up moving to the US with them about 11 years ago. Worked with some amazing brands, amazing team, learned a lot from them, and ultimately decided to start my own agency. Like I mentioned, Flight Performance, because working with these big brands and big agency world, it's very different to operating with kind of, dare I say, smaller brands, more ambitious brands, where the impact you can have as a growth marketer is really felt versus percentage points of brands like Toyota or Disney or the other sorts of brands that I was working with. So that's me in a nutshell.
Huge, huge, huge. First question that I have, I always love to ask founders who started companies is for you. Did you always have the entrepreneurial bug in you since like being a kid, or how did this play out?
Do you know what? I say often, I don't have the lemonade stand at 2 years old entrepreneurship story that a lot of people have. So yes and no. So like, I think you can always connect the dots looking backwards, right? But like looking backwards, I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, even though I worked within other people's companies. Like, what did that look like? Just work ethic and wanting to do more and be more and really challenge myself. So I think entrepreneurial spirit, but you wouldn't see much of that looking backwards because, to be honest with you, I loved working at MySpace. I loved working at AOL. I loved working at Turn and Amobi with these big brands. And so for me, it was like I loved the companies I worked for, loved the brands I was working with. I had amazing managers at those companies. So, but within that, I brought an entrepreneurial spirit to my work, which I think ultimately I started my company at 34, 35. For me, that was the right time. I had all that experience of how to actually run marketing, how to build teams, hire, everything else. So for me, it felt like the right time, but it's obviously very different now. Entrepreneurship also is very popular. Yeah. You got to look back to when I kind of like came out of, I didn't go to college, but came out of school. Do you see what I mean? Like it wasn't this big popular thing that was popularized on social media and everybody felt that they could do it. I'm really aging myself. It was a different time back then.
I know what you're talking about all too well. And I do want to get more into like when you had started Flight Performance, or previously known as Mint, as we will talk about. But the piece that I wanted to dig into is like kicking off at MySpace, then going AOL. Like you were very much in the social space, the social networking game, like early on. Was that intentional where you knew you wanted to do that?
No, it wasn't at all. No, prior to MySpace, I had like bit part jobs at like telemarketing companies and Enterprise Rent-A-Car and JD Sports. So I kind of lucked my way into working at a social media network at the very beginning of social media. Yeah. So I'm very lucky for that. And it was MySpace that first brought me over to LA, which kind of, sparked the love of Los Angeles and wanting to move here and start my own company one day. But no, it was more so I kind of fell into it, if I'm honest with you, but loved every aspect of it. Again, I'm always conscious of like rewriting history when you look backwards, but I think even at the time didn't quite realize what that would mean for my future career of joining those sorts of companies so early on within how this industry is transformed and shaped. But I do remember things like, at MySpace, then hearing about Facebook more. Oh, there's this Facebook, it's coming out. Then Facebook became more popular, right? Then at AOL, programmatic is starting to eat our lunch in terms of media budget. What's this programmatic thing all about? So, I think you don't maybe realize the impact of what you're in until you look backwards. But it was definitely a great foundation for how I think about the rate of change within the industry, because you come to today and you look at that rate of change and it's only increasing, right? So I think it maybe instilled in me like an ability to think forward and adapt quickly, because our industry changes so quickly.
Another thing you had mentioned, jumping back to one of the other pieces we were talking about, is you had started your own agency with the idea of being able, as a growth marketer, being able to make more of an impact at like a D2C e-com darling, rather than one of the big conglomerates of the world. Yeah. You kind of breezed over that, but that is such a good learning, like about yourself, to know where you wanted to make an impact. How did you identify that? Some people would say, yeah, I'm working on Nike. That's great. but you were like, nah, I want more. Like, how did you identify that?
Two things. So working with those size of brands, it became more, and where I'd got to in my career, being kind of like a senior strategist, it became more about, like, yes, the strategy, but the strategy for those big brands when it comes to performance marketing a lot is all about efficiency. They play a different game, right? Like you translate how most DTC e-commerce brands, 6, 7, 8, 9-figure brands, manage media and marketing and think about growth marketing. It's very different to how, let's say, an Adidas does, right? Like very different. And so I think it was a combination of kind of becoming a bit disillusioned with the impact you could have within brands of that size. And also, obviously moving to LA and being in this environment, meeting lots of entrepreneurs, a lot of my friends owned brands. And so you'd kind of like look at, well, how can you translate what I know about how to grow a brand and what I know about media and Facebook and Google and everything else, and applying that to a brand whereby you can have more of an impact because it was more integrated, right? So another thing about being a bit disillusioned is, it's just the way of the world. I think it's changing, is nothing spoke to each other, right? So I remember kind of being shocked of like, the creative was shot by whatever creative agency, and then they would hand it to the brand team, and the brand team would do whatever they want with it. And then within performance, it was even split up so much you got walled gardens of social. Retargeting was broken out. Google brand was broken out from Google. So nothing spoke to each other. And so again, like the founding philosophy for Flight Performance is an omni-channel integrated team where it's like strategy, creative, media, right? Because the efficiency and the speed at which you can move and the performance at which you can drive, I think like the DTC world is like, that's the standard, but I still see a lot of fragmentation that we try and solve.
Huge, man. So this is so interesting because you are quite introspective, even from initially talking through all of this and not wanting to rewrite history and being honest with yourself and others. So I went way back on your Twitter and I pulled up one of these tweets. Nah, man, don't worry. I'm not doing you dirty. I'm not doing you dirty. But I'm going back to December 2021, actually. And then you had posted one of these ones right here. So about shifting perspectives. And the real question I have here is like, how do you think about personal growth and like foster your own personal growth?
This is one of the best books ever, by the way. This is definitely my top 5 books. I like to read, but I don't read lots of books, and I read ones that I really like. So if you haven't read it, that's a great book by Mo Gawdat. Personal development, I mean, I think there's two things. I'm very into my fitness and staying healthy. Like I think a big part of like personal development is just from a high level, it's how can I be the best version of myself, right? And I think there's business, there's family, there's health, right? There's these like kind of pillars to how you think about that. More so from a business perspective, I think going on an entrepreneurial journey, you realize that so much of it is becoming the person capable of achieving the results you want to achieve. I think there's things you can do to, accelerate that personal growth. But I think a lot of it is just knowing that you're on that journey. I think like having good mentorships, having a good foundation to how you think about success and failures and how you utilize that and learn from that, I think is really important. But for me, it's just, I think staying committed and being consistent in my approach and knowing that the more I work on myself and the way I think about things, the way I approach things, the way I tackle challenges, that's all making me better for the future, if that makes sense. And that's what's going to allow me to achieve the things I hopefully want to achieve in life.
Fitness is so important. It took me forever to get on my fitness grind. Like, just I had to get like a personal trainer to make sure that I would show up at the gym. Yeah, I was like, because going back to what you had mentioned, there's so many different parts to life. Like, there's your career, there's your relationships, there's your mental health, there's your physical health. The list continues. And it was always a question of like, how do you distribute your energy in the best places possible? Because it's honestly impossible to kind of put it into everything all at one time. So I was consistently ignoring the physical side of it. So I've just started, and I've done even like cheesy things too in my day to day of like, I wrote myself a little Post-it note that reminds me to stretch. Because if I don't stretch, I'm gonna have a bad back. And then I make sure I got my gym appointment, so I go work out and lift. But the real question in there, thank you, man. Thank you. But the real question in there for you is just like, I think it goes back to the distribution of energy. So you talked about the importance of fitness, but then there's all of those other buckets you had mentioned. How do you prioritize where your energy should go?
That's a really good question. I think it's less about balance and more making all things interweave with each other, right? So like, I also really think that, and maybe this is going in a different tangent, but like so much of entrepreneurship and stuff is like, or historically, and I think it's getting better with better influences within kind of entrepreneurship is like, push yourself, hustle, do this, like work nonstop kind of thing. And I think that used to be the mindset and what was popularized.
Oh, did I lose you? Hello. Perfect. Last I heard was like the hustle porn was popularized essentially.
It was popularized, and I think it's really good that that's changing very much. For me personally, I think it's like, look, it's all about making, my personal goals and my health goals, like that's the foundation to everything. Without that, like everything else falls down, right? So it's really priorities versus trying to find like balance. What's the priorities within my day and how do I stack that in order of priority? So for me, the first thing I want to do in a day is get a workout in. I think as well, just understanding that the journey is a long one and you can, there's elements of sprints, but not pushing yourself so hard, right? That you, dare I say, burn out or kind of like mess yourself up in that way. So, I think for me, it's like creating a symbiotic environment from which I can manage my fitness, my work, and my family with enough downtime to, work on that self-progression, right? And self-development.
Huge. It's so interesting because like,
I don't stretch though.
But if you're in the gym every day, that's just like a different form. It's not intentional stretching, but you're moving your body, getting it going.
That's true.
This really does make me think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it really like starts at the bottom. You have your safety, you have your shelter, you have your financial security, you have your health. And then as you move up, you move towards like things like psychological safety and then ultimately self-actualization where you can appear as your best self. And it feels like from what you've described is like you've structured your days around continuously making sure that foundational level in the hierarchy is always satisfied. It's like my physical, my mental is going to be good. So everything else allows me to succeed. So whether intentional or not, that's my analysis. And I love it, man. That's absolutely incredible.
I think so. I'm very much a creature of habit and routine. I kind of need structure in my life. But that works for me, right? That level of structure keeps me disciplined, keeps me focused. But it's not so rigid that if I miss my 6 a.m. workout, my whole day is fucked, So, but that definitely helps me.
Huge. So I wanted to jump back to the professional side of things now, because you've had interesting experiences before kicking off your company. And like one of the areas I'm always curious about is for people who are going through this journey now, is this idea of like, you're an individual contributor, Michael Jordan type. Then you move to like a managerial level where it's no longer about your individual output. And then all of a sudden you're an executive, like running the show. Talk about those transitions from the different layers. And was one harder than the other, or if you have any advice?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And this is where, like I said, like I think I always brought an entrepreneurial spirit, and some of that wasn't always positive, if I'm honest with you. And what I mean by that is, as an individual contributor, I think I felt clipped at the wings in being able to do the things I wanted to do because there was corporate red tape. So one of the nice things about running your own company is, and you know, small companies benefit from this and should maximize it, is the speed at which you can move. But I often think this, even to this day, like, you know, 5.5, 6 years in, the amount that we can get achieved as a smaller team in a day or a week or a month. You can have an idea on the Monday, it's live on the Wednesday, right? That's really hard to do in bigger companies, or if you're an individual contributor of a company that maybe doesn't facilitate ideation and speed of execution. So I think one of the biggest things, like one of the nicest transitions, has been that ability to move really quickly. Again, that's because I come from big companies, right? One of the challenges is delegation, and realizing that you at a certain point of size or scale, or if you want to build like a solid foundation that can scale, your job as the founder is to set your teams up for success, right? So that's two things. That's hiring the right people, and it's instilling a real solid understanding of what we're trying to achieve, the standards of which you expect to operate, and then also then having the systems and processes that facilitate that. A big challenge for me actually was the whole systems and processes thing, because, you know, I would say I'm an operator, but I'm also dare I say, I lean more towards vision and strategy. I'm very fortunate that our COO, Hannah, is...
Shout out to Hannah.
Shout out to Hannah. She balances that side of me, because what I wasn't good at, you know, when I was an individual contributor, is abiding by systems and processes. So it's actually a really interesting difference for me. Of I was the strategic guy, I was the client guy. It's like revenue and performance and this and that. Processes mattered less to me. Whereas now you really see the importance of systems and processes within a company. So that's been an interesting personal challenge, right? Of like really understanding how important that is for my own companies to be successful. Knowing that I was one of the worst at it when I was an individual contributor.
There's something to be said about being able to brute force something, though. You know, it's just like get it over the line quick. Like, it's such a unique skill. But then, as you're saying, as an agency, what you're really offering are services via humans. And at that point, you need a quality bar and to take everyone through.
Yeah. And that's been actually really enjoyable to really get into, right? At Flight Performance, of really developing that foundational system and process, like our approach to doing things. Because I feel like, you know, having that really solid foundational operational layer really supports very smart people. And so if you hire very smart people who are good at what they do, and they're supported by, dare I say, simplified but consistent systems and processes, they excel even further. What you don't want to do is dumb smart people down with I can't say the word. Too many systems.
Over operationalizing it, something like that.
Thank you.
I got you, man. I got you. We're connected. We're connected.
That's the one.
So you had mentioned earlier, like, an emphasis on hiring. Hiring is hard, man. So take us through like mental models, processes, or frameworks that you follow that have allowed you to build such a strong team.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, and I don't think I've always got this right, but it's something that I think you really learn or I've really learned across my journey. Is I think it starts with, you know, and put it this way: at Flight Performance, what do? We do growth marketing for DTC e-commerce brands. Like, so what should we be the best at? We should be the best at hiring the best growth marketers to scale DTC and e-commerce brands. And one of the ways you do that, right, is creating an environment that people want to be hopefully part of. And that's like your external positioning. That's how you think about things, right? So I think when a lot of founders talk about like personal brands and building a brand and stuff like this, I think that's often seen as a way of getting new business, but it's also a way of getting talent, right? And I think that's often missed. I think I look back to the early days of starting the agency. It was really hard to convince people to come and work for this one-man band, like out of a WeWork in Hollywood. So that was hard because, you know, you're trying to convince people on a future journey, on a future vision of what you're trying to build. And as you establish yourself a little bit more, I think it's really about, you know, this is what we offer as a company. This is the potential for, you know, the employee and everything else. You know, I've always gone down the route, if I'm honest with you, of like I don't really believe in this like hire super smart people and get out of their way per se. I think it's like hire super smart people and give them absolute clarity on what success looks like and what the expectations are. So I think one thing that I've gotten better at through my hiring journey is being really explicitly honest in interview stages of like, this is where we're great, this is where we suck, this is what we need help with, this is the opportunity. I think a mistake I feel like some companies make is they oversell themselves, and then it's an expectation mismatch from the get-go. So I think being brutally honest with like, this is what we're trying to achieve, this is what the opportunity is, but here are the challenges, right? I think that starts to find the right types of people for your company, and that will change as your company goes through the ebbs and flows of growth.
Huge, man. Huge. And then for you, when we're talking about these smart people, is there a profile that you'll lean into? So what I'm thinking about is like, I know some people who follow that thought process of like hire smart people and get out of their way. They'll lean super senior with those hires and like just let them do what they want. Whereas like other people might focus on building out like a training program and taking someone to like really embody the company's belief. So I'm wondering if you fall into one of those camps or if it's a hybrid of both.
I think it's a hybrid of both. And again, I think it really changes based on the stage your company is at and where you are potentially on a growth curve, right? Because I think for and again, like it changes in terms of like the culture of the company as well. So I think culture first is really important, right? Like hiring for culture, like I think and it depends on like the structure of your current teams, because it's all good and well saying, well, we'll hire junior people and train people. But if you don't have a really solid training program that's being done by a really senior team member, then that training is going to fall down and that employee is going to fail and it's your fault, right? So I think you've also got to really look at, well, who do we have in the team currently? Where are the gaps? And is that somebody we can bring in that's junior because we have the ability to train them and make them into a superstar? Or do we actually need fewer people, more senior, because that's the current structure of the team? So I don't want to like give too many, well, it depends scenarios, because I know the word it depends within but it kind of does, right? Yeah. So I think at times it's right to hire the person who's been further down the journey than you've been, but so long as that person is energized by doing it again, right? I think that's a really important thing to think about if you're thinking of hiring a more senior person who's been further down the journey, is that has to be matched by a desire to go back to a couple of steps and how we're going to do it again, but different and better. So I do believe finding a balance within your company is probably really important.
Yeah, for sure. This is so interesting too when you're talking about leading with culture first. I was talking to David Herman about this, and he had built a big agency and said, I don't like this. Like, I kind of want to just like get back to the basics and be with like a core crew with clients that I really like. And a framing that him and I started leaning into is like, everyone says that business is not personal, right? But something that came out of our conversation was like, wait a second, like business is personal, like especially if it's your company. Like you want to like the people and they have to fit with you in that extent, right? So I'm curious, like if you have any opinions on that.
Oh, business is massively personal.
Mm.
And if you're in a service-based business and everything is relationships, right? A company, running a company, it's the management of people. It's how do we create an environment for these people to be successful, but then how do we manage that environment and the people? If you have clients, you're managing people and people's expectations, and everyone has a different personality. And so I think every element of business is personal. And I actually agree with David Herman. I think like for me, I'm not trying to build a 1,000-person agency. I think it's really about trying to have the smartest people in the room delivering the best results, and the size at which that is the size at which that is, versus pushing for, I want a big company.
Who are the type of people that you work best with?
Oh, I mean, I have an amazing team. I absolutely love working with all of them. For me, I think somebody who can bounce ideas off, and somebody who challenges me. I think what I really value with my team as well is like, you never want to be the founder who everyone says yes to, right? Like, you're doing something wrong if that's the case. I think what's really good is being able to bounce ideas and kind of like be told maybe where you're wrong, or maybe where you're off, and have different perspectives. So I love being in environments where all perspectives are valued and all perspectives are heard, because ultimately it's not about being right. It's like, well, what's the right thing to do that's going to be successful? So I love that kind of environment. And I also love, like I mentioned, the dynamic of like big vision ideation and then some realistic, okay, or this is how we actually achieve that, right? I think that balance is very, very good.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Vision is like honestly the most important thing, but then you need someone who can execute it and actually bring it to life in stages, in seasons, in steps. So that makes
Yeah,
so much sense.
yeah.
Daniel, I think what I'm so curious about now is like when we've talked about your journey, it's kind of looking like this when you look at it from a bird's eye view and look at it far away. But I guess what I'm curious about is like the story is never that simple. And I'm wondering if there was any moment along the journey where you're like, yo, I don't know if I'm going to get through this, but you ended up being able to push through.
Oh, yeah, about 1,000. Um, I think it's really interesting. I think from the outside perspective, you never know what's really going on, right? But I think every entrepreneur, everybody who's building anything, I don't want to even just limit this to entrepreneurs, but anybody in their career, is it ever just up and to the right? I think like I could give examples of what those things have been. I think the better thing to think through is like, if that's new to you, if you're going through that sort of thing for the first time, like everybody has, and everybody will, and you will do again. And I think that's when we talk about personal growth. I think I've heard a few people say this, but like entrepreneurship in itself being the highest personal growth or self-development thing you can possibly do. Why? Because it teaches you so much about resilience and your ability to overcome challenges that you had no idea would even be a challenge. And that resilience builds up like a level of self-confidence, because the next time something comes that feels like it's the end of the world, or you might not get through it, you have the kind of like the, dare I say, the battle scars about, well, I got through all these other things. So if your motivation is high enough and your conviction is high enough, I think most things are you're able to overcome. So again, I don't know if like specific examples are as beneficial as like just knowing that everybody goes through those things.
I love that. And I think where my curiosity drives me to is like the motivation. Like what motivates you to sign up for this every single day,
Oh,
knowing
man.
there's 1,000 times that you might go through it again?
There's a couple of there's a couple of things actually. I think the overriding thing for me is like, I don't feel like I've achieved what I'm capable of as an entrepreneur, as somebody within marketing. I think I don't know if you ever do, right? Once you reach a certain milestone, like as everyone says, it's just like, okay, well, what's next? I think there's never a point at which you reach the pinnacle. And if you feel like you have, then you're already on your way down. So I think like it's important. So I think from a personal perspective, it's like I want to build the best growth marketing agency in the world for DTC e-commerce brands. By what measure? It's just, well, do I feel like we're the best we can be, and do I feel like I'm the best that I can be? The other thing I think downstreaming from that is like the team and our clients. Right? So a huge motivational factor for me every day is like, are we doing the best for these clients we possibly can, helping them grow their business? And am I providing the best opportunity for our team to be successful and enjoy their work? And then there's the more personal aspects, right? Of like daughter to provide for and everything else. But I think it really is those kind of like three pillars of motivation.
I love it, man. You're a girl dad?
Yes. She's amazing daughter, Molly. She's nearly 15.
Shout out to Molly, man. Shout out to Molly.
Shout out to Molly. She's amazing. She's amazing.
Yeah, I do not have any kids yet, but all of my friends are just starting to, and I can't wait to at some point. But they're all having daughters, so it's just like, yeah, they're all having daughters around me. So I'm just like, oh man, I want a little girl for sure. No way.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a blessing for sure. You know, I've still got that bad boy scene in my mind when the first boyfriend comes around. So
that's real though. That's definitely real.
Say in, Molly.
What I'm thinking about now is again, we've talked about how I believe like you're super reflective and like honest with yourself, and personal growth is a big piece of all of this. So where I bring this to is on the goal setting side of things. Like, are you the type of person, both business and professionally, where you'll set goals at the beginning of the year, track the goals to understand how you're performing against them? Or is it more like vibe and feel it out?
No, I definitely do. You know, I think within the business, you definitely have to track those goals. And I think like there's big goals, right? And then there's like more foundational month over month, week over week goals that you need to have in order to run a successful business. What's interesting about this goal setting, actually, and I don't know if it just means that I'm not progressing as fast as I should, is when I do those big annual goals, it's the same. They've been the same for the last 3-4 years. I don't know, like I said, judge me if you want to. I don't know if because I'm not thinking, you know, I should be progressing fast enough, but I think that's the level of consistency at which it's like, well, okay, this year I still want to build the best growth marketing agency for D2C e-commerce brands. And I still want to make daily commitments to myself that I don't break around fitness and eating well and, you know, reading 10 pages a day. So I think like my foundational goals is just, they're quite consistent because the work is the work within that to just be consistent at doing those things. Obviously, I do have like bigger goals and aspirations when it comes to the business, but they're still within those same pillars, right? Build the best growth marketing agency. How do we do that? That can go a few different ways, and that evolves over the course of the months and year based on opportunity and everything else. But so I set those goals here, but they're really quite consistent year over year. Within that, you know, I'll have mini goals and milestones I want to achieve. And from a business perspective, you know, it stays quite consistent. I've never really had like I want to get to this revenue, I want to do this. It's really been about, are we doing the best work? Do we have the best team? Am I happy with how we show up in the world? Does that make sense? It kind of stays consistent.
It checks out. It checks out with what you were mentioning earlier. In all honesty, it's a combination of like big, hairy, audacious goal. It's not like you're not progressing. It's just like, this is a really freaking big goal that takes time, and it's going to be, you'll never be satisfied, like you said earlier.
Yeah. And I think one thing that helps me with that, and I know it's like, it's more popular to be like, well, I want to be this, and I want to do this revenue, I want to do $100 million, and I want to do this. what's quite grounding for me when it comes to goal setting is I already achieved my ultimate goal of moving to America and launching my own company. So anything beyond that is kind of like upside to me.
Word. One thing I am curious with you though is like, and a lot of people in society have this. It's ultimately you set the goal, and if you do get to it, what's the next thing? Or it's like it's so large that you'll never get to it.
Yeah.
And there's also a group of people who talk about like the celebrate the small wins, stop and smell the flowers. So how do you balance those two extremes?
Yeah, I think you can never celebrate the wins too much and never overdwell the negatives. I think it's really important. Yeah, maintain a level of calm consistency across all things is really beneficial, especially as an entrepreneur, because as we all know, we've all seen the charts. In the morning, you're crushing it, then you're fucked, then you're crushing it again. So if you have an extreme emotional reaction to every positive or negative that happens in your business, you're going to be worn out. But I think it's obviously really important to learn from the failures, right? It's kind of cliche to say they're not failures, they're lessons. Like that's a mindset, because try telling that to someone who's just failed, right? Depending on the scale of failure. So I think that's again where it becomes like your mindset and your approach is really consistent. For me, it's like the wins are more, it's nice to have personal wins, but from a company perspective, it's really about the wins being used to reinforce with the team and the company why what we're doing is the right thing, the right way to do it, right? So, and then the failures or the lessons and everything else, like, they are opportunities to get better. You're still going to fail in the future, right? And I think like changing the script of like, yes, okay, it's a failure, but it's a lesson of how you can improve. That's all mindset. So it's like not overdwelling either. What I will say is like, I do think it's really important to celebrate the wins. I think even I have to remind myself of that. I remember when we first started the agency, we'd go out for dinner every time we signed a client. Like it would be this big thing. We signed a client. That's like a dinner and a night out to celebrate. Like, wow. We don't do that now. And we do celebrate those wins, right? But I think it's important not to lose sight of that, for sure.
For sure. Man, this is so interesting to me because like all of this stuff translates to company culture. And one of the pieces that I'm like reading between the lines on, and I think where you and I are quite aligned, is that like always looking to improve. That's what you really want. It's just like, how do you take those steps forward? And then if you have people around you who also like that, it's funny because like that's considered fun. Like, so that gives a lot of dopamine in the process. So even though it might not be a traditional celebration like the dinner you had mentioned, it's like just talking about how to get better gets you so fired up, right?
Yeah. I've got the Japanese word kaizen tattooed on my face, which is just continuous improvement. And I think that's so much of how I approach things. It's like, it's all a continuous improvement. But I agree with you, right? Like within a company setting, especially in the world of like performance marketing, right? Which I'm sure a lot of people who are maybe listening to this are within. It's, it's challenging. It's fast paced. By definition, we are chasing results and performance on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis. You combine that with you're doing that from a business perspective, right? Like it's challenging, especially when it's like, you can't always control that, right? To a degree. So, I think like just having that mentality around like how you approach that from a mindset perspective is really important.
Huge, man. An example, I've honestly forgotten, like so long ago, I used to run an events, like an in-person events team.
Did you?
Yeah. And what we used to do is after every single in-person events team, what we'd do is we'd automatically huddle and debrief. And it was just like baked into the culture, and we just tear ourselves apart instantly. But we all found that so fun. So it's like when we talk culture, it's like it's in a version, it's like a different definition of celebration. It's like, how are we going to get better tomorrow? Everyone's fired up about that. So I'm like, I've forgotten that that used to be part of my life. And like through the conversation, I was like, holy shit, like this is so true. Like I'm
Yeah.
wired this way, you know?
And that's a really important skill set, right? Someone who gets fired up by the opportunity to continuously get better at what they do, right? Like with endless curiosity. And that's a special mix of people.
Huge, man. Dan, you've been so generous with your time. I do have one final question for you, if that's all good.
Yeah, go for it.
Sweet, man. So I ask everybody who comes up here the same question because I want to put together this clip montage at some point when I got them all.
This is
if you don't have an immediate answer, it's all good. Just throw it to me first. I'll jump in with my answer, then you can get yours. The question is, so I'm wondering, do you have a favorite quote? And if so, what is it and why?
I read this question. What's yours?
So mine evolves with the seasons of life, career, all that kind of stuff. And the one that I'm leaning into right now is a Derek Jeter quote. So the Derek Jeter quote is preparation builds poise, poise builds confidence, confidence changes everything. Preparation builds poise, poise builds confidence, confidence changes everything. So I'm like working with my sales team, for example, talking about preparation before the call, like know these people better than they know themselves, for example. And then once you get your reps in, guess what? It starts to build confidence. And once you have confidence, you got the sauce, you're good to go. And I think of it in like my personal life too. It's like I'm going to the gym, I'm preparing myself for a better version once I have kids and all that good stuff, you know?
Once you have love it. I love that quote. I'm going to take a slightly different angle. I don't know if I am a quote guy, but I'm not a quote guy. Like there are some quotes. I actually have a massive Bruce Lee quote tattooed on my back, but that's way too long for me to remember and read out. This is going to seem a little bit pithy if I'm honest with you, but again, it's not a quote. I'm failing you on this.
It's okay.
A lot of things in my life, I come back to a phrase of "it is what it is." My mom actually got me a cup that has the words "it is what it is" on it because I use it so much. Again, it's not a quote. I'm sorry to let you down. Why I like it is like it's a mindset of accepting reality and getting on with it anyway. And I think that is so much of how I kind of operate and live my life and how I don't have massive emotional reactions to positives and negatives of it is what it is, accept reality. It's like a foundational way of me thinking within life and business. So sorry, it's not like a really cool quote.
Oh man, don't worry. That's great.
I like that.
That is fantastic. Are you a meditator by any chance?
Not in the traditional sense of like. So I don't want to say no, actually. Like, do I spend time talking to myself, like in my head and like collecting my thoughts? Absolutely. Do I do it in like a specific setting as part of like a morning routine, or do I journal? No, I don't. But I definitely, if we think of meditation really as being about organizing the thoughts in your head, yes, I do that, but it's less structured. It's just in those quiet moments that I have across the day or week.
Nice. The only reason I ask is I practice mindfulness for sure, and my mind is going all the time. So the "is what it is" like my version of releasing all the thoughts and being like, it's okay. For 5 minutes, I'm gonna try and just focus on the breath. It's okay. It is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is.
It doesn't even need to be like in that sense, it's like an acceptance of something may be challenging. I think it works on both ways. For me, it's more of a positive. It's like a balance of positive and negative. That approach of it is what it is. Do you see what I mean? But I take it how you want. I'll have better.
Nah, man, that's why it's great. Like whenever there's multiple interpretations to be able to adapt it to your life, like I feel like that's the purpose. Whether it's an exact quote or not, it's all good. But I feel like it's a phrase that people can embody quite well. So don't even worry about it, man. Don't even worry.
I'm very much like that. It's like when I read books, it's like, what can I take that I can action? So there you go. There's my rationale for it not being a super cool quote.
Stop this, man. Any final words that you want to leave with our audience?
I wanted to say a massive thank you to you and the Motion team, actually. Again, this isn't like a sponsored thing. Like, thank you for having me on. I love the tables being reversed from your episode on Bite Size, which people should go and listen to, because that was very early on when like creative strategy and creative strategists were like, it was like a new role and a new position. And we're hiring creative strategists now, FYI audience. So it's like, it's crazy to see how that has evolved. So no, man, like massive shout out to you. Thank you so much for having me on. Shout out to Motion for all that Motion does in enabling our industry to produce better creatives. And yeah, man, that's it.
Appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. This was awesome. This is so awesome. I'm gonna talk to you really soon. Okay.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, bro. Take care.
Take care. See ya. Bye. Oh man, everybody, this is like, these conversations are so like refreshing to me. Like being able to get a peek into someone's brain, into why they think the way they think and why they operate the way they operate. So uniquely privileged to be able to talk to so many people about these types of topics. And I'm hoping that the audience here and all of the clips and everyone who's watching is ultimately a spot when it's like you can start to adapt this to your own life. And like, these are the mindsets that are helpful in pushing you forward to achieve that you want to achieve. So I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to everybody for being so open and vulnerable in these conversations to share a piece of them and their stories. Now, with that said, I wanted to go back because the viewership count was jumping as we were going through. If this is your first time here, welcome to ThumbstopLive, y'all. So if you're interested in learning this more, check us out on X or Twitter at ThumbstopLive. We are streaming every Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. But here's the thing. I'm going fishing for a little bit. What does that mean? I'm not literally going fishing. I'm taking a little bit of a vacation. So we got Labor Day coming up. I know the sales are going to be popping. You all are going to be working, but there's going to be some of us taking a little bit of a break, including myself. So I will be off starting tomorrow until September 8th. And once the week of September 8th comes around, we got heaters, more and more people that you know in our community that are going to be absolutely incredible, sharing their different mindsets and approaches to life. Everybody, this is today's episode of Thumbstop Live. I'm so grateful for your eyes and ears. I'm going to talk to you really soon.